one man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time.
We do know that you will always get paid in HEX on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call HEX, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
What is up, guys? Welcome into the Creed of Crypto podcast. My name is Boi Crypto. I have here with me, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. We have a great show for you tonight, and as you can see in the thumbnail, we are talking about, is HEX the laughing stock of crypto still? Are we still the redheaded stepchild? We're going to get into that tonight. Obviously, the SEC shenanigans do not help matters as far as that goes, but there's a specific tweet kind of vehicle for that conversation tonight that I want to take a look at. We're going to get to that and a lot more. We're going to check on the BTC and ETH price here. We have updates to MetaMask potentially having via, obviously we'd have KYC, but being able to onboard straight into MetaMask from your bank, all kind of a one-stop shop. What's going on in macro? We're going to check on the HEX Pulse ecosystem prices and everything, a whole bunch for you guys tonight. So if you're on your way in right now, smash the like. We very much appreciate it. And vote on the poll. We're doing a quick sentiment check. What do you think the Pulse token does this bull market from the SAC rate? So we're not talking about right now or the previous lows or anything. Where do you think it goes from the SAC rate? We've got 15 to 30x, 31 to 75x, 75 to 200x, or for the uber bullish 200x plus. So give us a vote there. We'll kind of check into that as the night goes on as well. Humberto, welcome in. Good to see you. I'm sure we'll have Andrew and some of the other normal folks in here tonight. Hit us up in the chat. We got Pac-Man here as well. Ewok, how you feeling this evening?
Another day, another dollar, my friend. It's, we were talking about this in the green room before. You start to get these streams ready and you talk about what you want to talk about. And as you get it ready, you're like, oh, man, there's not much going on. Here we go again. Yeah. And then, as we discover, there's all kind of stuff still going on. It's funny, though, that this is one of the few communities that I see people just all the time still. There aren't many others. Even the Bitcoin people have kind of quieted down a little bit. The ones that aren't engagement trolling the Hexicans, at least for clicks and stuff. But it's funny though. It's pretty cool, and I like to believe that the engagement that this community has done through the bear market here is going to have tenfold payoff as things start to pick back up. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. We do know, and it's not even confirmation bias. There's a lot of people that got into PulseChain or got into HEX, independent of being a day one OG or having some kind of, listening to Richard Hart years and years ago or anything like that. And there's plenty of people that have come to this community and been part of it, again, that were not there from the beginning and just came organically because they see that it is the best community. It is the best product. I'm not saying from a confirmation bias standpoint. People come independently of that and don't have some crazy allegiance to Richard or some of the other folks in the community. They just like it because it is the best product. And yeah, I think we're seeing that kind of grow in this bear market. That's a conversation we're going to have as well as we go on. And yeah, we're psychos here. And, people just are not leaving. Again, I think Sami always mentions it. I think it's 143 HEX, maybe 142 now that Crypto 7's not on there anymore. But on PulseTube, we've got a whole bunch of different channels on there talking about it constantly.
We're still not on there. We're still not on there yet.
We're not on there yet. Yeah, we got to bang the monkey. You guys got to get us on there, PulseTube. We'll reach out to you, slide into your DMs maybe to get us on there. But yeah, Yeah, just the amount of people that are still so active in this community right now when we are in the throes of that depression still. We're going to look at the prices here. We'll look at the PulseChain ones in a moment, but BTC and ETH not having a good time right now. 25.7K is where BTC is. I just found that out 5 minutes ago. Ethereum is at 1634. So I guess probably like the day traders are thinking that 20K is imminent and, posting all of their high conviction short-term plays on Twitter and stuff like that today. But it is, slothing along, not looking too great. In terms of our ecosystem here, we have a pump on the day, but obviously we are still in deep blood territory here. We have Pulse just rallied up to 60% below the sack rate, sentence that I'm sure many people didn't think we would be uttering 3 months or whatever after the launch. PulseX, everybody loves to hate it right now after everybody loved to love it for years. It is about 90% still below the sack rate, of course. We got HEX on PulseChain at just over 0.8 of a penny, and HEX on ETH at that half rate, basically at 0.4 of a penny. So, a little bit of a rally for the PulseChain ecosystem today. What do you make of it, Ewok? Did you FOMO in? I know you were looking at some DCA buying, as was I the last few days when we had a nice dip. What do you think? And let's talk about this idea of like September. Look out for September. Oh, the blood's coming in September. What do you think about that idea? Are you still trying to keep some cash on the side to see what we have coming here? What do you think for our ecosystem over the next month or so?
I can still see a little more downturn, a little sideways action. It could get a little worse, could get a little better. Like it's going to chop back and forth. I don't know if these lows that we've put in will stick, or if we'll go a little bit deeper. I think we'll definitely go back and test them. But the way September has played out before. I don't think the contrarian play. It's not worth it to go hog wild right now if you've got some capital to put in.
Yeah.
DCA like normal. You get some drops and take advantage of them, but I don't think you're missing out on anything. At least I think we're looking into November, even December until things start to get a little green. It's just the way the cycle goes. I have some cash set aside. I was waiting for it to clear. I don't even know if it has yet or not. I forgot to look today. But I'm preparing to get a little bit more in at these prices, and maybe we do get another dip. A lot of people talk about this PulseX thing, and how the buy and burn is not really doing a whole lot for the ecosystem. And we just have to remember how many people sacrificed, how many more people sacrificed for that than Pulse. There was exponentially a lot more people, and a lot of them had to wait 2 years and over leveraged and probably sold. That's why we're seeing such a heavy dip, and it looks like the buy and burn isn't doing much, but there's also not a whole lot of volume. So just things to keep in mind. Be patient. It's that, you said it earlier, the depression part of the cycle. It beats you up. It literally, just when you think you're moving a little bit forward, it pulls right back. So, you've got to prepare for that until we start to see some real green candles, and, everybody will be in such a better mood by that point.
They definitely will, yeah. And there's we might as well talk about the PulseX thing here because we were going to here in a little bit. And you just hit the nail on the head, Ewok. I was watching that great stream yesterday with Corey Costa and Axis Alive, two real strong personalities within the community that everybody loves and values what they do for sure. So shout out to those guys. But Axis brought up a great point. And one thing I like about him, him being kind of a TA guy, it's just going to be cold-blooded logic, basically, and that's all he's going to give you. And I think he's 100% right about this. Is people are throwing out like the buy and burn narrative failed and all these things. And again, yes, tons of people were maybe irrationally, shilling PulseX to be it's going to outdo Pulse and all this stuff and the power of the buy and burn and everything. prior to launch, which I agree with you, Ewok. Yeah, we don't have the volume for the buy and burn that is taking place that has been very impressive to reflect in the price yet.
Yeah.
But plain and simple, the answer to this question is what you already said, Ewok. It's in the math. 3 times the amount of people, 3 times the money was put into PulseX in a sacrifice phase, a year and a half, 2 years ago at this point, compared to Pulse. And you know what? That ratio has pretty much held up the entire time. It is widening a bit right now. It's 1 to 3.75 or so right now, but it's been 1 to 3 or like a 0.26 ish ratio, Pulse to PulseX, for most of the duration of the launch of this chain. So I'm not saying that means, you're all wrong and PulseX has actually held up well. I'm not at all saying that. I mean, obviously everything looks like shit right now, but in relation to what the holders were, everything that's happening right now is just plain math. Like the people that waited that long, there are more people in PulseX, more people in PulseX to sell. The price is down further. What do you expect? So
yeah, well, I never thought about it that way, but the ratio being set versus the number of extra people that were in it opposed to
exactly.
PulseChain. Like I never even really logically thought about it in that sense, but it's working out to be pretty darn close.
It's literally all it is. And I really do think it's mostly that simple because, whether you did sacrifice for Pulse or PulseX, we know people that sacrifice for Pulse have been waiting longer, obviously, but it was also a smaller amount of people. That's about what it's been. 3 times the amount of people, 3 times the money was in PulseX, and we're just seeing it reflected in the price chart. So I think, if anything, that should give people solace that are maybe worried about PulseX and are super long PulseX, or maybe talked up PulseX and nothing else for 2 years or something like that. We, like you said, the smart contract is the smart contract. The buy and burn is the buy and burn. And even though there was a little snafu with that, and that's been, since resolved, it is still working. The metrics are there underlying. There's not enough activity on the chain yet because it is September of 2023 and nobody cares about crypto right now.
Well, there's that. And, I saw a post earlier today. I think it was Katie. So she had mentioned that, Solana was down for like 143 days after it launched, and then proceeded to do like a 170x or something like that from the bottom. And then I did a little bit more digging and I found out that Cardano, it was down for 1,000 days. Once it launched and it made that first initial candle up, and then it started to trickle off for 1,000 days. But then again, they launched right at the very beginning of 2018. I think it was like April of 2018. So they endured the entire, almost over 3 years of bear market until they had their first green candle. So luckily, I don't think we're in that position. I don't think it's going to be that rough. Not 1,000 days, but keep in mind, Solana, like I said, they had pretty decent timing as well, and they were down for 143 days. So, I don't even remember what day are we on. Do you know for Pulse?
I don't know the day, but I mean, we're almost at 4 months because May 12th was the launch. So we're about
120 ish almost.
Yep. So and you're great point about Cardano because like you said to me today, the choice of launch couldn't have been worse. I mean, it was like it would be like launching in, say, we'll say December of 2021, which was like literally the very beginning. There was like a big precipitous drop off in the market right after Bitcoin hit its new double top, basically in November of 2021, and things just still some people were still bullish at that point, but then by like I think February to May is when it was like Terra Luna was happening and all that stuff. So yeah, imagine launching at that point. I mean, you were literally doomed for like 2 to 3 years just because of market conditions.
Well, just because of timing. Absolutely. I mean, part of that cycle. And, I don't know if they didn't think about it or if they just wanted to get the product out. Richard has always said, I'd rather launch in a bear market toward the end of it so that, you're looking, the candle, the chart looks so much better. You have a lot less resistance on the way up because, once it gets past those first levels, there's really nothing stopping it, but if you start and it goes down and down and down and down, then you run into some problems as resistance levels that some of those are met on the way down. They're tough to get by on the way back up. So I don't think we'll have too many of those issues with this chain. We hit those levels pretty quickly when it dipped, and it's just kind of going sideways now.
Well, what's funny too, and you just reminded me of this, is I was watching Corey Geary and Money Talk with Dane. They had a good stream earlier today, and they made great points. A lot of us, I know you and I have said it, everybody said it, is like, hey, prior to PulseChain launch, it's like, hey, don't feel like you have to totally FOMO in. You're going to have months around these levels to DCA. Now, at that time, we thought that meant like around sack rate. Like we thought, oh yeah, I'll still be able to get like around sack rate. Like I remember celebrating with you, like buying even PulseX below sack rate in the early days, and thinking like, oh man, awesome. Well, now we couldn't have foreseen some of the things that have gone on with this, with the SEC false claim shenanigans that we're, hopefully resolving soon. But so many people had that idea of like, hey, don't worry, be patient. You're going to have months. Who actually fulfilled that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure people still have some money on the sidelines, and we're keeping our head on a swivel here in September and keeping some cash on the side if we can. But I mean, it's extremely hard to do that, especially now. I mean, again, we didn't see these prices going down this far. So like, how many people can say like, yeah, I fulfilled exactly what my plan was. I didn't FOMO in any more than I wanted to. Or even if you were doing a responsible regular DCA, it's just gone a trajectory that or a spiral, whatever you want to call it, that you may not have anticipated. So we can say that stuff till we're blue in the face, like pre-launch, but it's very tough to have that restraint the whole way through. And we got to remember, hey, we are only at about 4 months in on this chain right now. So.
Still new.
Yeah,
still new.
Good comment from Tom Kane. I saw that too. The Matic Polygon chart at the beginning looks similar as well. So yeah, and that's the thing you're going to see. I mean, the more you look into some of these other launches, like Ethereum as well,
nothing
Solana.
Different. Yep, nothing different.
Yes. So this is the depression phase still. I think this week, maybe because of we had Labor Day here in the United States. I don't know if it was just me specifically or just like I don't know what it is, but this week I think more than any I have felt so far. Not so much like depression as far as frustration, but just apathy, I think, has set in a little bit of just like, we're still here. We obviously have a great show for you tonight. We have a lot to talk about, everything. And there's always lots going on in crypto. But sometimes it's just like, man, this market just isn't back yet. And to just be sitting there, especially on a platform like Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and some of the, just cancerous stuff that you see on there, you don't want to be just sitting there refreshing that all day,
No, it's not healthy, and if you let it, it will beat you up. It can really change your outlook on things. If you have a plan, it can almost make you alter that plan if you're not careful. So, you really have to stick to your guns. And if it is bothering you, you have to get away from it. You really have to walk away, turn it off, start blocking people or muting them. You know what I mean? If it's just every time you see a post and it's or a tweet or whatever they call them now, if it's nothing but negativity, get rid of it. It's not doing you any good. When the green candles come back, everybody will be in a good mood. Most everybody, anyway. There'll still be some bears out there, but they'll be few and far between. At least right now, it's a little rough because there are people that just start drama just to try to get more fear, more people leaving the market, selling with doubt, and it just creates more FUD. So get away from it if it doesn't do you good. If you can't handle it, if this is your first cycle, especially if you've not been through this before, you definitely need to limit it at least.
Yeah, for sure. And I think we all kind of have our own little cope mechanisms and stuff like that, or things that we do to disconnect. Like, I mean, it doesn't even matter if it's like looking into crypto or just working too much on screens during the day, which I know both you and I do. It's like, sometimes you just need to disconnect and get out. Like one of my things, and I was listening to Ben Cage and Matty Allen talking about this today too. But find something for yourself specifically that you can do to get out of that headspace. Like I always like to, I have to do like the furthest possible thing that I can think of from like chart staring to get out of that space. Like I love to go to like farms and check out what's going on. Like we have some Amish things around here where we are, and just hitting up the farms and seeing how they're living and stuff and how simple it is and everything, and just spend time there and totally disconnect and just see how kind of slow the world is moving out there for real. Instead of just the stuff you're seeing on your timeline.
Yeah, something else that I do too is, even while I'm working here, especially when I'm working from home, I'll throw a YouTube video on that has nothing to do with crypto. I enjoy watching a lot of these people that will sail around, even if it's just through the Bahamas or wherever it is. They go to some really cool places, and there's always a boat problems, and they're fixing and working on their sailboats and things like that. And it just kind of makes you realize that everybody has their own issues. You have to deal with them face to face, or you may sink. You know what I mean? So
literally, yeah,
it's not, it kind of gets you away from that crypto speak as well, and puts things into perspective, and it also just kind of changes the pace of things a little bit for me. So yeah, I enjoy watching some of that stuff, or just whatever it may be. Interesting shows, pop on, or but it's definitely good to take a little break from it.
Yeah, I've been on a I'll tell you what, not to get too off topic, and then we'll wrap this up. But as far as distractions, I've been a big fan of the biography channel on YouTube. Their actual YouTube channel, man, they have some good wrestling documentaries. If there's any guilty pleasure WWE people, WWF, WC, in the chat, I just watched the Mick Foley one the other day. It's terrific. Like they have interviews I've never seen before, like stories I've never heard before. Just awesome. I've been an addict of those lately. So
cool.
They've been really good. So anyway, back to the topic at hand. So let's talk about some of this macro bullshit that's coming up over the next few weeks. So we have the August jobs report come out in the U.S. where jobs increases, and there were increases in unemployment up to 3.8%. So unemployment did go up a little bit. We do have the CPI release on September the 13th. So that's 1 week from today. We'll have that to talk a bit about next week to see, is inflation still going down, or whatever they're going to do, whatever metric they're using to identify that now. And then 1 week after that, as usual, we will have the next FOMC on September the 20th. So we talk a lot about what they'll do, and we, like to speculate and stuff like that. Right now, the market is actually projecting at 93% there will not be any action, that will just stay where we are. Now, I know Powell was hawkish at his Jackson Hole speech a couple of weeks back. People talked about maybe more like long term. I don't know how much more long we can get with these rate hikes, but maybe into later this year or next year. I don't know. But people are not expecting one right now. I tend to agree with the crowd. I did think he was kind of doing that dad speak, like I always call it. We got to be careful, don't drink too much, and all that stuff. So I don't know. I'm just not feeling that they're going to raise rates again now. I think they want to continue to take the temperature and see where we are. I think we're getting close to having to reverse course here, regardless of what his comments have been. But what do you think, Ewok? That's where the market sits. But yeah, what do you think we could see with inflation and then this next FOMC here in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I don't see anything really happening at this one. Maybe the next one. I think it's headed in the right direction. Hopefully it's headed there fast enough. They're not going to be happy until the unemployment rate goes way up, higher than it is now.
Right.
Unfortunately. And that means, a lot of people losing jobs, and, different markets being strained, different sectors in trouble, and that sucks. That's where we have to get to be back in a better place. Just doesn't make sense. Meanwhile, they're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. We have people at home,
which we have no opinion on. I just to the people pulling the puppet strings at YouTube, we have no opinion about that. That was just an observation by Ewok. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, it's just I don't know. I don't see. I know, but I don't see anything happening at this one. I think you're right. The dad's speech probably in effect nothing happens to this one, but I do see another raise coming up, probably 25 points during, not after this one, but the next one. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying they're done raising rates or anything, but yeah, I think it's probably Powell just making sure that he sounds, conservative, and we'll see what they actually end up doing.
yeah.
But we do have another 3 meetings counting the September one this year. We've got November 1st, I believe it is, after that, and then mid-December, I want to say. So we do still have a couple to go before we turn the page to 2024 and hopefully an even better year. So yeah, so that's where we are with some of that macro stuff. If you guys are enjoying the show so far tonight, smash the like. We very much appreciate it. We do this show every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let's turn our attention to a couple of exploits and disastrous happenings here in crypto to remind you that, hey, if all that's happening to you is that the price of your favorite token is down, in our case, 98%, that's not the worst thing in the world, because, hey, we still have our tokens and we all believe the price is going to go up. We'll check on that pool we posted here in a moment. But we saw earlier this week, I believe it was, the Stake platform, which is essentially a gambling platform that's backed by blockchain. I think you can use like the Ethereum blockchain. I think Binance, or you know what I mean, whatever that chain's actually called, BCB or whatever.
BSC.
Yeah, BSC. So you can basically fund it through those blockchains. Stake is a huge sponsor, unsurprisingly. You have a lot of these gigantic crypto influencer channels. But it was a almost $42 million hack across multiple chains on Stake. So what do you make of this story? And again, it just makes total sense that they also happen to be one of the big advertisers with what was, I believe, BitBoy's channel, whatever it is now. I have no idea, but I'm pretty sure they were a sponsor of theirs. So
yeah, he was definitely one of their sponsors. I know there was like $16 million of Ethereum, and there was, I think, 25.5 million of Binance Smart Chain, and Polygon's another one. You can use Polygon chain too. As far as I heard, it was a exploit where someone gained access to the private keys. So I don't know if it was really an exploit or a hack, just terrible mismanagement of their private keys. So, they didn't have it set up right where it should have been for something that large, probably a multi-sig situation where there were a couple different people that had them and all needed to be in one place in order to make a transaction. Unfortunately, it costs a lot of, that's a lot of money. That's $41 million that, isn't going to go into something else, unfortunately. So,
right.
Yeah. I mean, there's not a whole lot to make of it other than just, people are careless. You've got to mind your keys, be careful. Always people out there looking to take advantage of stuff. So it's just shows or gives you a reminder,
Yeah. Not a platform I'd be interested in anyway, as far as Stake, but which doesn't have anything to do with actual staking. I think a lot of people, I included, because I don't participate in it, thought it had something to do with staking crypto, but no, it's actually just basically sports betting and stuff like that. Probably other markets too. I don't know.
Right.
And then we also
I think it goes back to the high stakes kind of terminology of stake. So
yeah,
right.
And also wordplay on staking and crypto too, I guess. So,
right.
So we also saw Coinbase's new blockchain, Base, stop producing blocks the other day for a period of time. I'm not sure how long it was. That has pretty much been, regardless of how well it's worked or what people think about it, it is an unmitigated disaster. I mean, it's basically just full of stuff that is, heavily VC funded stuff that's just going to dump on your head later, which why wouldn't it be? I mean, it's, the Coinbase layer 1 or whatever it is. But yeah, so we're already seeing issues with that. I think we'll continue to, obviously. I know Zen, I believe, briefly launched on there. So it got the Zen treatment as well. But yeah, I don't know much else about what's going on with Base. I don't know if you've heard anything else about it, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like how many people actually use that this coming bull market, because it is one where you would think like, oh, Coinbase, because there are people that are like, oh, there's the Coinbase wallet, and they use the Coinbase wallet and they see, oh, they have Base, an actual blockchain. I'm going to check this out. I don't know if that's enough to get people to actually use it, but I obviously would not be a proponent of it.
No, I wouldn't either, and I really don't know a whole lot about it. I saw Dipcatcher was posting about it as it happened, and he was going through what happened, and then after they had fixed it, he had reported that it was back up. I believe, didn't Richard just tweet about that not
I
too
think he
long
did
ago?
mention it. I think he did mention it today.
Yeah, it was
Which,
just a couple hours ago that he had said something. And on that note, when he said how Pulse has not had that problems, and then he said PulseX didn't have any issues, and then he came back and said, well, I guess PulseX did have a little bit of an issue, but it was so small, and we just forgot about that. So that was kind of funny. It was the humble Richard at work. So
it was good to see him. I frankly hadn't even been thinking about him. I saw a notification pop up from him, and it was cool to see him tweet a little bit today because I hadn't really heard from him lately.
It's been a couple days, right? A couple days.
Yeah. So that's kind of some of the exploits we've been seeing. Let's real quick touch on this MetaMask thing. So we kind of mentioned this at the beginning of the show, but the idea that MetaMask may actually have just a feature to just, it sounds like they are going to be implementing it for this bull market, is that you can basically just, obviously have to comply with KYC and stuff like that, but onboard yourself straight into MetaMask, connect your bank account straight to MetaMask. It sounded like what you said, Ewok, is there was an 8% fee for whatever the funds were that you were going to be depositing that may or may not include the gas fee. I would tend to think, how could it? Because if they're just throwing a percentage out there, how would they know that that would cover the gas fee or not?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I would imagine it would not. So obviously 8% is pretty terrible. And we have many different onboarding ways to get into crypto that, obviously through an exchange and then send it to your wallet and stuff like that. There's many ways to do it. If you're involved in the PulseChain ecosystem, obviously Coast is the big thing right now. Onboarding straight to the ecosystem and minting the CST stablecoin. But what do you make about this MetaMask thing? Because regardless of whether we think it's stupid or not, or expensive we may not use it, I would think that's going to be a big thing in the bull market for retail, because MetaMask is the most popular wallet. And if you have a way to just get right on there without using Coinbase or anything like that, I could see people doing it.
Yeah. So apparently here's what it looks like on the screen. It's the new screen, which I haven't seen yet anyway. I believe it's only in, actually, this says a little different. It says MetaMask said the service is live, supported in 189 countries. However, there's a limit on the amount users can buy based on their region. So anyway, I think it will be successful. As we've seen in the past, people trade or swap, I should say, on MetaMask, where the fees are extremely high, instead of just using Uniswap or something like that, where they're a lot lower, or even setting limit orders, which you can't do with MetaMask either. But yeah, that 8% fee is going to be pretty pricey and could add up for a lot of people, but they're making a lot of money. Now, the problem is, there is the KYC, and I don't think there's really any way around that with, onboarding or on ramping or off ramping. I think anything that you tie to a bank, you have to KYC. However, just be aware that, whoever you give your information to, they store it. So be very careful. I know the guys from Coast, and their on and off ramp are not storing anything. So they said that's the best way to stay safe, is to not store the information. So we don't keep it. It goes through the approval process and it's gone. So, just keep in mind, MetaMask has been a little shady in the past, and I don't see that changing. So yeah, be careful. And like you said, 8% plus your gas fee, that could add up quickly.
Yeah, that's terrible. I mean, it definitely lends itself to higher amounts of money. Obviously, you throw in $100 and then it turns into 92 right away. That's not exactly awesome. I mean, hey, we all deal with, smaller versions of that now. I mean, just sending something to Coinbase or whatever, and you lose a couple of bucks sending it to your wallet and all that stuff. So yeah, but again, you're right. I mean, people do use that terrible swap feature on MetaMask, maybe not even realizing the amount of fees they're paying. They're going to use this too. So, I mean, it is what it is. They're going to make a shit ton of money, like you said, but it also is another easy way for people to get onboarded into this casino.
Well, the more people we can get into the casino, and then show them the right way, the easy way, or the cheaper way, I should say,
Right.
the better off we'll be. We got to grow the space, and it's Metcalfe's law kind of thing, taking effect is you've got to tell two people, and then each one of them, they've got to tell two people. And after it, the network effect becomes quite large. It just takes a lot of time, especially when the bull runs are only a year long, and then you've got to fight through 3 years of bear, and it's hard to onboard people at that point when they should be buying rather than chasing the green candles when everybody wants to get in. So, it's just, like I said, hard to get them in, hard to keep them in, and then hard to get them to buy at the right time. That takes
for sure. Yeah, to buy, sell, do anything at the right time, keep holding, whatever. So let's turn our attention to the main topic. So is HEX at minus this ecosystem at minus 98%? The laughing stock of crypto. And part of the reason that we wanted to bring this up tonight is, HEX and Richard Hart products have basically been kind of the redheaded stepchild, the censorship on ranking platforms and things like that. Big Twitter influencers always like to dunk on them because they know it'll give them engagement. And I just sent to you, Ewok, if you could pull it up and share it on your screen. I just sent it to you on Twitter. I put it in the chat too, but I also DM'd you. So I don't know how many people know who Don Alt is, but he is one of the trading hosts on what the hell is the name of the podcast? I used to subscribe to it, but it just became kind of mundane every single week. The Weekly Open. But it's three dudes. Cred is one of them. Brian actually is the name of the host, and Don Alt is the person we're talking about here. So he's a Frenchman, I believe, and he is a BTC trader. And weirdly kind of came out of the woodwork today to dunk on HEX. So it's funny. I assume I saw this because Sami replied to it, so it probably ended up in my feed. So if you are getting that pulled up, I don't know, Ewok.
I'm pulling it up. I had to.
Go ahead.
I got you.
I'll read it at the same time. So Don Alt, who has said before, and I have heard this too, he has said it before on the podcast, that he mutes HEX and, criticizes the people in the community and doesn't want to hear anything about it. So he evidently manually went and unmuted HEX today anyway and said, so is HEX completely dead now? Can someone that is, I'm not going to use the R word here, but we'll say tarded enough to keep up with that dumpster fire, give me the latest drama. People defending HEX by saying you would have made money if you got in at the bottom have lost it. It was built like a pump and dump from the start. The only money anyone made is off suckers after you. It's blood money, especially if you promoted it, making you part of the problem. Now, this third tweet's my favorite part. This is where he hedges his bets. This is one of the projects where I'm entirely price agnostic. The price can go up or down 1,000,000%. The underlying thing is still the same and obvious for everyone to see. So now, HEX could go to $20 this bull cycle, and Don Alt's still right, everybody. A token made to make Richard rich that will eventually fail. And the beautiful thing is, Sami then actually took a screenshot of Don Alt saying some shit about HEX way, way back in the previous bear market before things really took off, and ratioed Don and got more likes than his original tweet. You see this how I handled that right here. I do see how you handle that. Yeah, that's good. That's fine. But I think it does bring up a bigger point. Yeah, obviously, Don's just he's one of these people that's going to be an influencer. Like literally, their podcast used to be sponsored by FTX. Okay, before
Well, there you go.
the disaster happened, and then they took it off there, and we didn't know anything about it, which I'm sure they didn't. But I'm just saying that these influencers with sponsorships and referral links and shit like that, they need to also get paid through Twitter. And hey, I'm glad that Elon did implement that. I mean, I am glad that there is that function in there for content creators, I guess, if you want to call it that, to get, monetized and paid now. But you are going to see more of this kind of stuff when it comes to HEX because, we've seen Bob Lucas been doing it, which is just cringe every time he does it. But they tweet about HEX because they know that you're going to get more engagement, plain and simple. I mean, like, I can just say from like the earlier days of this channel, like talking about some other cryptos and stuff like that, all you have to do is like make a thumbnail that has anything dealing with HEX, PulseChain, anything in it, as opposed to like what, Polkadot or some like, boring ass coin nobody cares about anymore. Like you're going to see 10 times the engagement just because it's on there. And it's the funny thing is like people like Don Alt and the others that will make fun of like the cult of HEX and everything like that don't understand that that's exactly what makes it so valuable. That's what they just do not understand. And I know none of us are like offended by the word cult anymore or care about it and whatever, but I don't think they understand that like, yeah, that's actually what is valuable. I mean, again, this guy's a day trader. He's never going to be somebody that gets involved in HEX or anything like that. But I want your take on all this, Ewok. I know, obviously, you don't care about Donald's opinion, but I'm curious as to, like, the bigger picture as we head into this bull cycle. Do you think HEX will remain kind of the redheaded stepchild that it has been as far as, like, the opinion of some of these big influencers until they capitulate and start buying it, especially, I think, PulseChain?
Yeah.
Or do you think the legitimacy of, like, having a layer one and stuff like that now kind of changes people's perspective, or somebody like him won't even understand that Pulse and HEX are, kind of within the same ecosystem?
No, they don't.
Yeah. But what do you think?
They don't take enough time to listen or read or anything. A lot of them just parrot information that they've seen before. And the longer this stuff goes on, the more we realize that the ones calling HEX a scam or Richard a scammer are the ones that all have been involved with people losing their money. It keeps playing out over and over again, whether they were sponsored by FTX or they were getting people into Celsius or Luna or whatever it was. The majority of these people that call HEX what they call it have been trouble. And unfortunately, I don't think that's going to change, at least not this cycle. So we kind of go back to this SEC thing. If Richard were to fight it and win, I think it may help a little bit. But is it worth it? Is it worth it to miss a cycle? Is it worth it to spend all the money on a team? I just saw Freddie Quotes post earlier something about, you're not going to agree with me, a lot of you, but I think we should just settle and move on, get over with it, because I don't think it's really going to change anybody's opinion of what HEX is. And I kind of agree. I kind of agree. I agree. The more I think about it, the more that we don't. But Richard talked enough about how EOS paid the fine and moved on. So hopefully, that could be a little precursor to what we see coming. But back to the whole thing, I still think a lot of these guys see HEX as a threat. Once Richard called it the better Bitcoin, they took offense to that. And they don't want people jumping ship, realizing what HEX is. I think they'll attack it for as long as it's out there. I really do, until it gets to a point where there is no arguing anymore. It's not under $1. It's been around for 3 cycles, 4 cycles, whatever it may be. I think that's how long it's going to take, unfortunately. And I don't see anything different. The Bitcoin. Listen, every crypto has its maxis, and a lot of times they are protecting their bag, and that's what they are. For us, I think it's a little different. Yes, we're protecting our bag, but we're also protecting, the players too, because we know what self-custody is, the immutable contract, the trustless yield, things like that you really can't get anywhere else without a bunch of risk. So, yeah, I think it lasts for a while, and no matter what it does, it will always have a pullback probably, and they come out of the woodwork again. Notice they get really quiet during a bull run when things are going really
Exactly.
well.
Yeah.
So
That's the thing.
that's what shuts them up. Green candles really shut them up. So
What does it really gain you? Like, how do you look when you victory lap something after the result has happened? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
right now, victory lapping HEX like this, like, oh, see, I was right. And then saying in the same sentence that it could go up 1,000,000% from here, I'm still right. Okay. I mean, I don't have an answer for that. I just don't
no,
understand what that logic is. And you're right. Whatever HEX does in a positive light this next cycle, regardless of how positive it could be, there won't be any acknowledgement of it. It's just funny, like kind of the selective memory or viewpoint that people want to have just to confirm whatever they believe, I guess.
yep,
And I just don't think, look, a guy like Don Alton, we've said this before, Bob Lucas, same thing. They're apparently at places in their lives where this kind of thing doesn't matter to them, and the gains of like trading Bitcoin. I hope Don realizes the diminishing value of Bitcoin, and that, the day trade, like he's going to have to revert to even more shit coins. But I just don't think that they're at a point of their life where something like this isn't going to be important to them, and I don't
yep,
think they really
yep.
care about the true ethos of crypto, and they celebrate Bitcoin ETFs and stuff like that. And that's just going to be the way it is. So, you can't really hate on them too much. And I wouldn't hate on them too much. They're in different walks of life, and it's just not something they want or need.
Right.
I just think that you're not really accomplishing much by like shitting on it when you already have the confirmation that the price is down. I mean, it's like, that's not very impressive. Yeah.
No.
So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, in regards to the SEC thing, and not to hammer that like we do every single week, but I want to ask you this, because I think what people are going to realize the closer we get to this November 28th phone conference thing, and just as we move through the slow grinding of court proceedings, I think it's more nuanced than just like fight or settle. And I know, like, I'm even guilty of making thumbnails that literally say that on our channel, because you want to make something that looks engaging and have a good conversation. But I think it's more nuanced than that. And I fully agree with what you just said, that Freddie Quote said, that all these people, Richard wants to fight and win, and if he wins, it'll mean this and that. I think it does mean something for just like,
Sure.
yeah, the SEC needs to go away. But yeah, the people that hate Richard Hart are going to still hate Richard Hart. That's not going to change.
Nope.
No, not at all. And I don't give a shit either. I mean, I don't care if their opinion changes or not. I just for that reason alone, it doesn't bother me whether he would settle or not. So,
well, you know what's funny? I think the fact that they hate him still is more press than if they just said, he's okay, he's an all right guy.
yes,
It'd be like me talking about Charles Hoskinson, right? I don't dislike him, but I don't talk about him because I don't really, there's nothing there, right? Where Richard will, he's a good guy. There's nothing wrong, but we don't talk about him. So even if you like him or don't like him, you probably don't really, unless you're in that Cardano camp, you're not talking a whole lot about him. But I think the engagement that Richard gets, even from the people that don't like him, is still beneficial. So he's getting the best of both sides, the people that love him and the people that don't. I mean, you're in one or the other. I don't think there are many people out there that say, oh, he's an okay guy.
definitely not.
I mean?
No, No, and that's why, like, I've said it before. Sami says it too, like how he's the Donald Trump of crypto, which I
Yeah,
think is definitely true. Not in like the politics necessarily, just in the nature of his attitude and stuff
sure.
like that. And it's so funny what you reminded me with the Hoskinson thing, which is a great comparison because, um, it's like that idea. Like as a guy, you don't ever want a girl like back in the day when we were young dudes. You ask a girl out or something like that. If you ever got like you're really nice. And that's like the last thing
The
that you
last thing
want
you
to
want to
hear.
hear. Friend
And
zone.
that's kind of that's the Charles Hoskinson dynamic, I think. And I do really like the guy,
Yeah.
but yeah, he doesn't make you stay up at night thinking about what it would be like to go on a date with him. Is all I'm saying. But yeah, you're not like dissecting everything about Charles Hoskinson necessarily.
Yeah.
As smart as a guy as he is. So
Right.
But I'm with you 100%. Yeah, keep the negative press coming. I hope these people continue it. Literally, yeah, Richard Hart winning. Matter of fact, I think him winning would net them coming out vocally with even more vitriol right away. Like, well, here the SEC had a chance in their mind to correct an actual wrong, and they still lose, or so.
And they screwed it
like,
all up, or something
yeah,
like that.
they start rooting for the SEC. Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Plebs.
So fun stuff for sure.
Right.
If you guys are enjoying the stream, hit the like. We very much appreciate it. Let's get into. I want to ask you this, Ewok. So talking about price, and let's actually look at the poll right now. So the top of the show, I asked everybody, I want to get a kind of sentiment check, and at first it was a little bit more even. Now I'm kind of liking where it's going. So we said, where do you think the Pulse token will be, or what the top will be going into this bull market? And the majority of the four options, we're at 40% now, are saying just that 15 to 30x right now, which I think is kind of natural. I mean, it's your adjusted expectations with what we are seeing in the market right now and with what things have go, which I think you do have to adjust a little bit when you see price development. That's not to say like, oh, you change your mind or you go back and forth or whatever. If you see price development, you'd be stupid, I think, not to kind of change your perspective. But that is the majority. Then, oddly enough, right after that, we have the uber bullish over 200x still from the SAC rate at 25%. And then just the two middle ranges anywhere from 31 to 75x or 75 to 200x at 19%. So I guess I can ask, these are ranges. So price calls, I agree with you, like we always say, are stupid, but these are ranges of X's. So I think this is a little bit more, I'm a little bit more interested in this discussion because this kind of gives you a real feel of what we may really be expecting for this cycle. But where would you land on this right now, Ewok? Because, this question, even a mere 6 weeks ago, probably gave us vastly different answers because that was before the July 31st complaint was filed. So what do you think?
Yeah, I'm somewhere in the 15 to 75 range.
So you're taking two categories.
Okay. Yeah, I got to take two of them. I mean, I like the fact that, a fourth of the people said 200x plus. That's pretty awesome. But I don't know. I think 200x is wishful on the first cycle. Again, it's going to really depend on the ruling. I think I hate to go back to that, but it really is crucial for it to take off. Now, don't get me wrong. When the rest of the market goes, Pulse has a very good chance of springboarding way ahead of it, especially because we don't have a widely used stable coin to kind of tie it down. You know what I mean? And that's what we have been talking about too, is the reason the price is going down is because everything's tied together. You've got Pulse, PulseX, HEX, and incentive all tied together with liquidity. And especially when the incentive token is constantly being sold, you had all the PulseX that was being sold. It just kind of drug everything down with it. Now, when that stuff gets bought up, it's going to take off and it's going to bring everything else with it. So, while I would love to see the 200x, I think we have to kind of keep things in check and not offer too much expectation. Now it could very well. I mean, I don't know. I don't know that we'll get to. So what's 200x from there? Is that 3 cents from a penny or from the sacrifice?
200x would be.
Or would that be 2 cents?
That'd be
Or
2 cents. Yeah, 2
yeah.
cents. Yeah.
I mean, who knows? We could hit a penny. I mean, I could see it hitting a penny. That's only 100x, but could it double that? Well, once you get to a penny, what's another one?
Right.
A lot of times, and we dealt with that with the hex price for the longest time, was getting over that initial hurdle of hitting a penny, and then once it did, it moved pennies at a time. So it's the 4-minute mile psyche kind of thing.
Yeah, I know what you
Once you
mean.
get to a certain level, that it can be broken, and then from there you can really take off. It's getting past those psychological levels, though, that are quite important. And it does take a lot of coins may sell along the way. A lot of people waiting to get profits back. So this one could be a little slower. I think we could, though, top out at a penny, though, on this cycle. I don't know about 2 cents, but I think a penny is definitely, in the cards.
Yeah. I could still see it. I mean, I in these categories would still go for the 15 to 30x from the sack rate at this point. But I mean, that's what the majority's thinking now. So I mean, it makes sense that we are thinking that with how low the prices are. So, I think that expectation is also healthy. And frankly, from where we are right now, that's what, like, it could be like an 80x or something like that from where we are currently or something. So keep that in mind when you're making your buys right now. That not that means that's even set in stone, but just keep that in mind with how depressed we are right now. That's why you and I both have kind of felt somewhat of a sense of urgency at buying at these prices, because we can't forget. I mean, it's only been 5 weeks since that SEC announcement. And even then, we had better prices than this for a lot of it. I mean, we had Pulse up at 50% discount off the sack rate. We haven't been really at that for a little while.
Yeah.
I want to real quick before I lose it, because I missed it during this conversation about the SEC, but Humberto made a really good point here. He said, I think that the SEC event against our community is an honor that validates how awesome our ecosystem founder and our community are. They only go after the best. That's a sentiment that I have been thinking myself too. Now granted, I mean, you could say the SEC is going after everything. They're not going after literally everything, just anything that is notable. And if you look at like what they've gone after, now they actually have sued Richard Hart, but in terms of like, just saying random shit that they hope, sticks to a wall,
right?
They've looked at like the coin ranking sites and just filed off the top 10 coins and said, oh yeah, they're all securities, whatever.
Yeah.
They've actually taken action though against Richard Hart. So I do agree with that sentiment. I mean, like, back to that like negative press thing and all these people like crapping on Hex on Twitter. You are making noise. I know everybody keeps talking about the then they fight you part of the phase. Could be more true than what's happening right now.
Yep.
I mean, the SEC's biggest opponents lately have been XRP, Uniswap, and Hex and Richard Hart. So
and BlackRock.
yeah, right. But I mean, in terms of like specific crypto communities or crypto tokens themselves. Yeah. But yeah, BlackRock too. So, so I agree with that sentiment too. But continuing with price stuff, I said this to you the other day, Ewok. So we're seeing every time this ecosystem seems to dip, which it did pretty hard a couple of days ago. I'm wondering if we've seen the bottom of Hex on Ethereum. 0.3 of a penny is a range that many people have been quoting as like, oh yeah, that's got to be like the absolute bottom. And it has really seemed to not want to go below there every time the ecosystem drops down. And that has included the parity between Hex on Pulse and Hex on Ethereum tightening whenever the market goes down. Now, I'm not saying it gets to like razor thin, but it gets below that 2-to-1 almost every time. We saw a Hex on Pulse go down below 0.8 of a penny the other day. And a Hex on ETH only went to like 3.8 tenths or however you want to say that. So they seem to tighten every time that goes down, and it seems to show that there's just so much support for Hex on ETH at those levels. So I'm wondering if you think maybe the bottom may be in, at least for that, in our ecosystem. And Gwei everybody's upset about like what the ETH prices will be in the bull market, and I totally understand that. Right now, though, like Gwei hasn't been a problem at all. It was single digits the other day.
Yeah, it's 10 right now.
10 right now on a weeknight. I mean, I know it's kind of, getting later, but yeah, still. And hey, people have said this, but I really believe it. I know ETH takes forever to do everything. What if fees do come down? I'm not saying they're ever going to get to PulseChain's levels, of course, but like, what if they do come down to a reasonable level? I could totally understand, PHEX, HEX, if you will, being the dominant one forever. I could understand that, but once again, I just can't see the other HEX, falling away from this ecosystem.
Well, that 0.3 of a penny was I remember hitting those levels on the way up, and it took a while to get by them. It would go above it, and then pull back and go above it and pull back. And I specifically remember for months at a time that that was such resistance for us to even break through. And then when it would pull back, it acted as support too. So they're quite strong levels. And I think, we're seeing that now. But yeah, I'm hoping that it's somewhat bottomed. Again, I know Axis just showed up here in the chat.
I see that.
He didn't want to post his charts the other day when he was on with Corey, because I think he's predicting that they could go lower. Not saying that they will, but there's always a chance. That's the scary part. We hope it's bottomed, but there's always the room for even more pullback.
Yeah. It looks really good where it's at right now. But yeah, in terms of, I just think that people are really going to turn around some of their sentiment on the two hexes in this ecosystem whenever the market does come back. I just think we'll still see good performance from EHEX, and people have still been kind of counting their chickens before they hatch, or whatever that is. What do you think about what Let Me Know said there? I figured you'd have a comment for that.
It sure seems HEX is a laughing stock. That's what really turned me off the ecosystem. I think he means echo chamber kind of
ecosystem. Well, I don't know. Maybe a combo. I don't know.
I got you.
Yeah, it could be both. Yeah.
Blind Maxie's screaming into an echo chamber with the same money getting moved. Yeah. There's still a very small amount of people. What are there? Just 130,000 stakers, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's not many. You need the growth for things like this to really take off, and that's what the bull markets are really for. So, I don't know. A lot of the education and the reason I think the echo chamber was very strong was because of Richard and a lot of the facts that he was just throwing out there. It made a lot of us more conscious, a lot of us more educated on a lot of the speaking points. And, unfortunately, that has kind of been phased out a little bit by him not being as active on streams. But the whole ethos of it has really stuck around. You've got a lot of guys that are building the right way. You've got some cool things, and I think it's stuck pretty well. So the echo chamber, I think that goes away over time. You see it with PulseChain now. We have to be more realizing that, we can't be in an echo chamber anymore with Pulse. You've got to allow the building and just be more selective of what you talk about. You can't get offended by things that you don't like, or you don't have to comment on it. And let it go. It all takes, it's all part of the network. It's all part of the buy and burn. It's everything. If we want to see PulseChain do well, then, we've got to kind of allow that stuff to be here, even if you don't like it. Just like it's on Ethereum. If you don't like it, you don't talk about it. Well, it's kind of the same thing. We need it for the growth. So I think that goes away. I think people start to learn to ignore what they don't like. I hope so anyway. And then a lot of the fights and that stuff, again, will all go away with green candles. So not too concerned.
It definitely will. Everybody's happy when everything's going up. But that's actually what you just said is a great segue to pDAI, actually. So in terms of things that are pumping, and has a lot of excitement going on around it in PulseChain. pDAI obviously has. I know B Roots has kind of been the king of that, but there's been a lot of other people out there too, for sure. What do you think, Ewok? So, forget like pegging or anything like that necessarily, but again, the chances of it getting to $1, how much that really matters, what you think is going on now behind the scenes, since we heard today that Atropa renounces their ownership actually of pDAI when they had been minting it before. There's a lot of, I don't think there should be any drama, but whatever, it is what it is. It's the market. But people referring to people that are not wanting to get into pDAI as pulse maxis. I think it's good that there's something on the chain that people are excited about right now. I don't care what it is. That's fine. Yeah. I have no issue with that. I guess what my take is in terms of actually investing and putting money in it right now. And you could even tell me like what the probability may be that it gets to $1 and a lot of the things that B Roots has been talking about. I don't doubt that some of them are true. But here's why, for me personally, it just hasn't made sense to get involved. And I think this is probably what a lot of people share the sentiment of. A lot of us at different percentages, at different amounts of money, clearly are like very down right now and are maybe being aggressive in their buy orders. So maybe we're putting as much money as we can into the market right now, but being conservative in what we're buying and really just wanting to buy the core tokens, for that feeling of safety. To me, that's just where I'm at. I just, until I had my goals reached, and I understand somebody like B Roots has everything he likely already wants, so he's going to get into this. I totally understand that. But for a lot of people, it's like they have no business maybe even messing around in anything that might carry any level of risk opposed to the risk we're already facing right now. So to me, it's just kind of like I still want to just be acquiring the core positions and the core tokens. So first off, I'll let you respond to any of that. And then I had another point about, what Richard Hart's kind of said in the past about stable coins on PulseChain.
Well, yeah, as far as DAI goes, I see it as another meme coin for those who are trying to push it off as a eventual stable coin. I don't think it can be stable ever. There's too many things against it. It doesn't have an oracle. It doesn't have the collateral. With Atropa, the renouncing the contract, I think there was more than one contract. Actually, I think there were 4 contracts, but either way, we know the Wizard of Oz was sitting behind the curtain, pressing the buttons, kind of thing.
Right.
Fine. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If somebody was keeping it active and buying up supply and matching it with liquidity pairs, things like that, so be it. Whatever. Again, I'm not talking badly. I think it's a risk for those who are trying to sell this as a dollar stable coin that's only 0.0001 right now, or whatever it is. It could get to $1. It could, but I really just don't think there's anything to peg it there. There's not enough backing. There's not enough things that can do it. And I think they're wasting I don't want to say wasting their time. Anyway, let them have fun. Again, right. It goes back to what I said earlier, is if you don't really like it, you don't have to talk about it. I definitely wouldn't push it on anybody new. If somebody wants to play around with it and maybe make some gains, there's nothing saying it can't go up. I think it could if they play it right. And there's enough wash trading, anything can go up. They can manipulate it enough to do that. I just worry that people getting in will think that's something that it's not, and it could get them wrecked. So that's why I would rather, not push it too much. Now, again, if you want to invest a little bit, new money, do it. That's up to you. I wouldn't tell anybody what to buy, what not to buy. But I try to look for where the value is, and Richard has said it before that price is what you pay, but value is what you get. Well, I'm trying to look for where the price is low on the value that we know what the real value should be. So that's where I'll stick to DCAing, and we'll leave the pDAI for the more degens than me.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not going to take any kind of hard stance as to like what is going to happen with it. And again, I don't begrudge anybody that is getting involved in it. I wouldn't, again, yeah, like you said, I wouldn't tell anybody to, and I'm not doing it myself. But hey, if that's what you're into, that's what you're into. That's fine with me, and I'm not going to hate on it. But a video has become popular that's like circulating around. Obviously, there's always old Richard Hart clips that are being shared and stuff like that. But he's being interviewed by Wendy O, actually, talking about making a stable coin on Pulse. And he basically says that he doesn't want to give away all of his tricks, which is pretty much a quote. So, I mean, what do you make of that? I'm not saying that like there's a direct link here, but I mean, a lot of people are pretty much saying that it is a direct link, and that's exactly what's going on right now. So do you think that adds potential validity to this, or that he may have meant something else, or what?
No, absolutely not. We know the guys that had the Atropa contract. They were involved with Wise and Axion and things like that we know Richard just would not get involved with. So for anybody trying to associate him with this, it's pretty way off. I don't think there's much validity to it at all. And it's wishful thinking. We also know that Richard at one point applied for an exchange license. I don't know if that was in the same conversation with Wendy or not. I think it was, if I remember correctly. He also had said that he applied for an exchange license as well. So I think with that exchange license and stablecoin, I think he could kind of tie it in all at the same time. That was my interpretation of it when he said it then, is that he didn't want to divulge, obviously he doesn't want anybody front running him on things, and we're going to have stable coins. Eventually we have the Coast token now.
Yeah.
Once Liquid Loans launches, we'll have another one. Is there a third one? I don't, other than the wrapped ones, I don't.
Right.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't think there's another like kind of native one or anything yet.
Yeah. I don't think so. But there's a lot of cool things. For those who are talking about the single-sided staking, they're wanting that, and you've already got that on the PH thing. The PH guys have a sided, I think it's single-sided staking. I think it's also on another platform. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's out there as well. So there's things out there that everybody wants, that are either here, coming, or I don't know.
It's on their way.
We're getting there. It's all the development stage. So we got to take it one day at a time, not rush things, and hope for things that really aren't. And I think that whole theory of Richard being behind the pDAI thing was just a far-fetched dream.
Well, and that's kind of like what you just said about waiting for some things to be developed. And I heard some a growing conversation right now in this boring time is like, why hasn't Liquid Loans launched? Why hasn't Power City launched? Why hasn't these different things people are waiting for? And plain and simple,
you don't want Liquid Loans to launch at a time where it's continuously going down, or you get everyone liquidated. It's a bad time. It's not the right time to launch. You want to do that at the beginning of the bull market, when people can collateralize and have a good time with it. Whereas if everybody did it now, they would take out loans. They wouldn't have enough to collateralize, and they would get liquidated, and that would be bad. And then, can you imagine all the people saying, just the bad things about it? It's not good. So they're doing the right thing by waiting.
That's pretty much what I was going to say. Yeah, like you want to wait until the market starts to come back again. Yeah, and I think that's what we're going to find out that a lot of these end up doing. So keep that in mind.
Sorry, I stole your thunder.
Yeah, you did. That's exactly what I was going to say. You know what? Screw it. I'm cutting the show off early. We're
All
done.
right.
No. But no, you wanted to
Outro.
touch. You wanted to touch on. Let's give a shout out because we covered most of the main topics. There's one other thing I wanted to talk about. It's too long of a conversation to get in now. It's a nice nugget that I'll save for the coming weeks because it's going to continue to be a topic I want to get out there, and it's a controversial one. So save that for next week. But you wanted to plug this HEX Lambos, HEX Racing UK. You DM me the other day. They have multiple Lambos I saw on their pick. Give me the rundown. Tell me about these HEX Lambos. Lambo out.
Well, they finished in the circuit that they were in. I believe they finished first and a second place. So they had two cars. They did extremely well.
It's an actual racing.
It's a racing team. They have the HEX Lambos. Shit. I should have pulled their. You got the.
Oh, they're following me.
Are they?
Yeah.
Right, nice. But yeah, they do amazing things, and they're over in the UK. So the cars are sharp. They're looking to build an F1 car, which I believe will be in Le Mans. Is what part of the I donated a little money at $20 or so. If you got a few bucks to throw their way, they're shamelessly advertising on their Lamborghinis and hopefully on the new car that they're in the process of getting to. But yeah, I just wanted to plug it because they do amazing things. I can't remember the one girl's name. I think Charlotte is the one. Maybe she's the female driver. Either way, they're on Twitter quite a bit, or X. That's going to be a hard habit to break, is calling it Twitter, isn't it?
Twixer. Yeah.
Twixer. Anyway, they do great things, and it's like free advertisement. They've been winning races. There's a pretty cool video out on their YouTube. I believe it's almost like a documentary type thing. If you can look that up as well, give them them a follow.
Saw it. Yeah, I just ran by that. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been doing shameless plugs for HEX this whole time, and they sponsored that out of their own pocket. So pretty cool. Just a group of Hexicans that are racing and having a good time and kicking ass at the same time. So pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, they have like a half-hour doc on YouTube actually that's on their Twitter page. So yeah, definitely check it out. Any kind of branding stuff, and that's the thing. How many? I don't know how many Cardano Lambos there's going to be. I know I've occasionally seen a polka dot symbol on a very small symbol on a race car here and there, but I don't think there's any gigantic advertising. Obviously, we had the HEX actual like Winston Cup or whatever it's called now, NASCAR, the main circuit last year for a couple of races. So the branding stuff is still out there, and just again part of what the best community in crypto. So awesome stuff for sure. I think that's gonna wrap us up. Looks like it is Charlotte. Thank you, Tin Top. One more thing from Humberto. Let's see. It's not the time to launch LL, but when it does launch, that will be an awesome sign that Pulse will start to go up. LL will reduce a lot of sell pressure. Yeah, I think so too. I know people are impatient with not only it, but other things as well. And yeah, we want things to kind of start turning around. So I know that we are just at a point where everybody's just exasperated. And it's like, why isn't this over yet? And then we have the thing that sucks about the SEC thing is you have that date and it's after Thanksgiving. So you got to go the whole way through Thanksgiving here to get to November 28th and see what the sentiment might be. And is this going to carry us through the end of the year? I get it. But honestly, that still is all narrative stuff. I still want to just pay attention to the chart, how cycles work and stuff like that. And just know that we've been hanging out in this area for a little while now. That's been like the lows of PulseChain. So if you have dry powder and are so inclined, I personally don't think in a couple of years, buying right now for me is going to be a bad decision. You have to make that call for yourself. But we're finishing off that poll tonight, though. We have 41% now at the 15 to 30x from sack rate for Pulse. So the overwhelming favorite. So, hey, that may be, since that's the crowd, maybe that'll be a sign of good things to come. Maybe we have a little bit more bullish action once things start to turn around. So that's just where we're at right now. So anything else you want to add, Ewok, before we get out of here?
Yeah, Axis, if you're still here, you do owe us a stream. So maybe next week or the week after, whatever works for you. I'm also going to be, I was invited to be on Corey Costa's stream next Tuesday. So that's at 7 p.m. Eastern on September 12th. So
Very
keep
nice.
your eye out for that. That's all I got.
Corey Costa, chop it up. That'll be good for sure. Yeah, he's doing a lot of great stuff right now for sure. So awesome. Well, hey, once again, guys, we do this every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We thank all of you in the chat for tuning in tonight for Crypto Ewok. This has been Boi Crypto. We'll catch you guys again next week right here on the Creed of Crypto podcast. Take it easy.